CDL drivers, okay? And then we're gonna be talking about the consent form that you signed and what it's all about and why we are here taking this training, okay? So we're gonna talk a little bit more in depth about pre-employment physical. So remember during your pre-employment physical, you took a DOT test and we got an MOT card. Oh, are you filming me? This is my good side.
You got a bad side.
So we did a DOT physical, we had an MOT card, right? Everyone received an MOT card? No. Some of you guys, it was like way back when, some of you guys didn't. Yeah, it was way back when. And then some of you guys didn't receive a card, some of you guys do. But when you do take your DOT physical, you're to receive an MOT card. Yes. We're gonna That's gonna be my next thing. Yeah. All right. So when you have your MOT card, you were to do your DOT physical, get your MOT card, go to the DMV, give them your MOT card, and then you tell them that you work for the City of Delray Beach and that you are under an exemption. Raise your hand if you knew that you were under a medical exemption because you work for the City of Delray Beach. Perfect. Raise your hand if you did not know that you were covered under a medical exemption. All right. So if you did not know that you are under a medical exemption, then you might have to go back to the DMV and get your MOT card renewed every 2 years, right? Okay. So those of you guys that have to get it renewed every 2 years, I would like for you guys to go to the DMV or call the DMV, let them know that you work for the City of Delray Beach. If you go there in person, you might need to show your card, your ID. And you guys all have my numbers. If you guys don't, get it from your supervisors. And you let them know, hey, I work for the City of Delray Beach. I should be covered under an exemption, a medical exemption for your MOT card. Okay? What does that mean? If you don't say that you are under an exemption, that means that a minimum or a maximum every 2 years you're gonna have to go and get another DOT physical. And if you don't do it within a certain period of time, then they're going to either suspend your CDL portion of your driver's license or revoke it altogether. Okay? So we don't want that. Yes.
I have a Class A interstate. I'm required to do my fed trucks, right? Is this what you're talking about?
This is for FMCSA. Do you work outside of the city?
I don't, but I have an interstate.
Yes. So with your interstate Class A, you might not be under an exemption because it's interstate.
Right.
Yes. So whatever I said, ignore it. So you are not exempt.
But just I think some guys have interstate,
Okay.
some of them have intra.
Okay, so if you have an interstate CDL, you might not be exempt because you are not utilizing your CDL locally. Okay? So there's nuance to it, okay? But if it says interstate, then you might not be under an exemption. Okay, I don't want to confuse you all. But if you work for the city, that means that you're driving your CDL truck locally, therefore you're eligible for the exemption. If you have an interstate, that means that you're not driving locally, therefore you will not be covered under exemption. Any other questions? Perfect. All right, so we have the pre-employment physical. So moving forward with pre-employment physical, not you guys, but moving forward for a pre-employment physical, you're going to have to go through the clearinghouse, okay? You're gonna have to do a full query through the clearinghouse. And now we're we're gonna have to do kind of like a background check, but more for your CDL, okay? So that means that we're gonna have to check to see if there's any violations on your CDL regarding any drug or alcohol before you're hired, okay? So those of you that are already hired, like most of you guys are just kind of grandfathered in. But those of you that have been hired within the last year, and then we actually will have to have you guys do this, okay? I do have a list, and I'm gonna be sharing that list with you at the end, and I'm gonna ask for those that have been hired within the last year to stay here, and then we're gonna talk a little bit more about the clearinghouse and what I need from you. Okay. All right, next we have reasonable suspicion. We're gonna get into that a little bit later on in the presentation. And then we have random drug tests. I'm sure all of you guys have been randomly drug tested. Yes, most of you guys. Okay. So it happens every quarter. Your supervisor will take you to the wellness center, and you will either get an alcohol and drug test, or you'll just do a drug test, right? Okay. We're gonna talk about post-accident. We're gonna talk about return to duty tests and any follow-up tests. So what does this training mean to you? So as a CDL driver, you're a part of the federally regulated testing program, and the following situations require drug or alcohol testing. So before you're hired, when there's a valid reason to suspect that you're on drugs or alcohol, any quarterly random tests, so that's the random drug tests. After certain types of accidents, so we'll drug test you if you get into an accident and you meet a certain requirement for testing. Next is before returning to work after a violation, and we'll get to that later. And then last is during follow-up checks after a violation. This is all required under the federal law to keep you and others safe on the road. And again, the policy prohibits the sale, the possession, and control of substances and alcohol on duty. Okay? Prohibits you showing up to work impaired and performing safety-sensitive duties with a blood alcohol of 4 or higher. And it's important not to drink within 4 hours before your duty. And if you are in an accident, okay, do not drink for 8 hours or until you get tested. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Okay, so some key definitions. We have accident means involves death, injury requiring immediate treatment or vehicle towing. Drug abuse is use of illegal or non-prescribed controlled substances. What is controlled substances? Controlled substances includes marijuana. Yes, medicinal marijuana, if you have a prescription, it's still illegal here in the City of Delray Beach, okay? Regardless of state legality, marijuana, again, is illegal. This also includes cocaine, opioids, and any amphetamines. Reasonable suspicion is based on observed behavior and credible evidence. We're gonna get to that. And then what does on duty mean? Right. On duty means time spent at work. On duty means on the premises or on call, including lunch and breaks. That's what we call the definition of on duty. So the FMCSA, it's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. It was established within the Department of Transportation, and their primary mission is to prevent commercial motor vehicle-related fatalities and injuries. The FMCSA Clearinghouse is a secure online database maintained by the Federal Motor Carrier Administration, and it provides real-time information on your commercial driver's license and commercial learner's permit holders, drug and alcohol violation program. So, this consent form is a consent form that you have to fill out only one time, okay? This is a consent form that to give the City of Delray Beach access every year to check the FMCSA or the clearing clearinghouse to see if you have any drug or alcohol violations. Okay? It's to make sure that you are safe, the city's safe, we wanna make sure that you're okay. Okay? So annually, we're gonna check your driver's license to see if there's any drug or alcohol issues with your CDL part, okay? So this has nothing to do with Embark. This is something totally different. We're not checking if you had any tickets, stop signs, or whatever. That's not my job. My job is to see if you had any drug or alcohol violations connected to your CDL part of your driver's license, okay? Once you fill this out, every year, we're gonna go ahead and check it every year. You have to give us consent one time, and then we can periodically every year check, okay? Any questions about the FMCSA and the consent form? All right. So as a CDL driver, federal regulations require that we run a limited query. So the limited query is just exactly what I said. So we run your CDL part every year, that's called a limited query, at least once a year, and this is to confirm that you don't have any unsolved drug or alcohol violations on record. CDL drivers must provide general consent, which that is a consent form, which can be one-time consent effective multiple years. Okay. Any questions? All right, so next, we're gonna talk about pre-employment. So pre-employment testing, we have the DOT testing. We did talk about your MOT card, right? We talked about you guys going to the DMV and saying that you work for the City of Delray Beach and that you fall under an exemption. If you do not have a CDL interstate and you have the other CDLs, then you're to go to the DMV if you haven't done so already. Say that you work for the City of Delray Beach and you fall under an exemption. You're to give your City of Delray Beach ID and say, here, I work for the city. If they need more explanation, then you say, okay, I'm gonna give you the phone number to the HR manager, Ebony Olivier, and you can call her there, or at that time you call me, and then you put me on speaker and I will talk to the lovely lady or lovely sir. Okay? I've done it a few times. Alright? But they should be able to give you that exemption. Okay? Alright. CDL applicants, like I told you, now with new CDL employees, they're gonna have to go through this, what we call a full query. This is kind of along with your background check. We're gonna do this full query to check if you have any drug or alcohol violations before you are an employee here, okay? Those of you guys that have been working here for less than a year, I'm gonna ask for you guys to do this, what we call full query, to see if you have any drug or alcohol violations, okay? We also do that for those that are hired with a promise that they're going to get their CDLs within 6 months. So before you are off of probation, you'll have to do this bad boy. And I'm gonna get into, again, further detail at the end of this training so I can give you a little bit more information, right? All right, so this query, this full query that I'm talking about for our new hires, this query verifies if, again, you have any drug or alcohol violations. If you have a positive violation, once I run this full query as a new hire, so this doesn't apply to you, but new hires moving forward, we run this query, and if I find that there's a positive test on there, they're not gonna be hired, okay? Not only they're not going to be hired, but if they go to the wellness center and they get a physical, a drug or alcohol, and they test positive, remember this is a new hire, if they test positive at the wellness center, I'm not gonna hire them. But now, their positive drug test is gonna be associated with the FMCSA, so it's gonna be attached to their CDL. Okay? So it's gonna be attached to their CDL. I not only tell them that I cannot hire them, but I also tell them because you tested positive on your drug test for pre-employment physical, your positive test is gonna be added to your CDL, and they're gonna have to go through a follow-up process that we're gonna explain later in order to take that off. Because with that positive now, it's gonna be associated with their CDL, and if they go to any other job that requires them to have a CDL or drive, they're going to see that positive test.
Shit.
Okay.
I have a question, sorry.
Yes.
Like for me, it's been like 4 years since I had my CDL, and for my first job, so they sent me to do a
I
job.
know.
Oh, you know that? Oh.
I know.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, your situation was handled and taken care of. Yeah, so that's why we were able to move forward. Any other questions?
So you say let's.
Him, and then you second. Yes.
That's for all CDLs or just CDLs that they require you to see? You came with your CDLs, y'all still gonna put that on their CDLs? If you didn't get them from the city, like why you not putting it in the city?
So, what he asked was, is this just for CDLs that you got from the city? But if you came into the city with your CDL already, does that affect my CDL even though you didn't get it through the city? Is that what you said? Okay. And the answer is yes. Yes. And we're gonna go into detail a little bit more, but I see that your brains are, you might have some questions, and, once you come up with those questions, let me know, and then I'll answer them. But I'll clarify a little bit through the presentation, yes. The guys that's been here less than a year, Okay, so what he said was, guys that's been here less than a year that's on probation, is that what you're saying? And they test positive. Yeah. So, okay, so what he's saying was, there are guys here that haven't been here for a year yet. And we have to run a full query, which is this one, and if they test positive, what happens? So right now, we're now implementing this. So if they do test positive, it's gonna be more on a case-by-case situation, okay? So right now, we're putting this into effect, which should have been in effect already, but we waited until right now to make it into effect. So, if they do test positive, we will work with them, we'll kind of go from there. Okay. Yes.
What about prescribed medication?
Prescribed medications. So if you test positive, so say if there's a random drug test and you test positive, and you're on prescription medication, that's actually gonna be in 2 more slides, so can you wait? Alright, I promise I'll answer it. Any other questions? Okay. Alright, so reasonable suspicion. So CDL drivers may be tested for drugs or alcohol use if reasonable suspicion based on visible signs are confirmed by another supervisor. So if a supervisor notices unusual behavior like slurred speech, odor, if you smell like marijuana, or any of that nature. So if you do have a policy, I know most of you guys don't, if you do have a policy, on page 8, there's a suspicion documentation of observed behavior, okay? So say if Mr. Curtis, can I use you as an example? Okay, so Curtis is my supervisor. I have driver, okay? And I come in, I smell like marijuana, I'm disoriented, and I meet some of the requirements here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna say, Ebony, is everything okay? And I'm gonna say like, yes. And then you're gonna fill out this form, right? It tells you what you smell, how's Ebony's speech, how's Ebony walking, standing, her eyes, is it bloodshot, is it glassy, her face, demeanor, awareness, what's going on. You're gonna fill out this form as my supervisor, and then you're going to say, hey, Mr. Guy, can I use you as an example?
Sure.
Okay, you're gonna say, hey, Mr. Guy, another supervisor, I talked to Ebony and it looks like she's incoherent, she smells like alcohol, she smells like marijuana, and I'm going to fill out this supervisor documentation of observed behavior form. Hey, can you talk to her? Can you get your own form, talk to her? I'm gonna be over here, and just let me know. Mr. Guy will come, talk to me, I'm slurring my words, I smell like marijuana, I'm discoherent, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, Ebony is displaying some behaviors that kind of like someone's impaired. So the supervisor, Mr. Wise, and Mr. Guy, you're gonna contact HR, and you're gonna say, hey, I think Ebony, might be impaired, I'm not sure what's going on. She said she's fine, but she's falling and she's doing this like, weird behavior. I'm gonna take her to the wellness center to get tested, okay? A supervisor, you'll get into the supervisor's car, and you're gonna go to the wellness center, and you're going to take a drug and alcohol test off of reasonable suspicion. So that means two supervisors have to observe you, fill out the form, and then take you, yes?
So, how many reasonable suspicions would it be? Cause let's just say one of them have like, oh, his eyes is red, and another one say his speech is slurred, but they get two different reasonable suspicions. Or if, one says it is, and then another one say it is, how does that work out?
I can't go, so if someone says yes and someone says no, then no test. There needs to be two supervisors that say yes. I also, see some of these behaviors as well. If there's one yes and one no, then no test. If there's two yeses, then test. Yes,
What
Mr.
if
Guy?
it's 2 yeses and they don't want to?
So if it's two yeses,
And the person
And-
that's being accused or under suspicion.
yes.
re-
So with two supervisors, they'll fill out the form and they'll say, hey, Ebony, I'm gonna take you to the wellness center, I believe you are impaired. And if the employee says, no, I don't wanna get in the car with you, I'm not getting tested, I'm going home or whatever, then we treat it as a refusal, and it's gonna be labeled as a positive test. And if it's a positive test on your CDL, it's gonna go straight to the FMCSA, and it's gonna be a ding on your CDL.
It's crazy.
We're gonna actually have a quiz after this, and you need to get everything right. No, I know you're asking, but you're always a slide ahead of me. Okay? And if I don't answer your question, then ask me again, and then I'll answer it. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes. Is it justifiable if that person, you ask that person to fill out that form, that would release, that test if they don't fill that form out?
So the supervisor fills the form out, the employees don't. So two supervisors have to fill the form
So
out.
if you, two supervisors suspect, that's under suspicion.
Yes.
So if you under suspicion and you bring that person before you, and then when you bring that person before you, and you think that, then it should be, well, we like it, for you to go do this test to clear you.
Yes.
And if they sign, then they're justified whether they don't sign.
Who signs it?
The person.
The employee?
Yes,
The employee does not have to sign.
they don't have to.
No, 2 supervisors have to fill it out and sign it. And then you have to go.
That person have to agree.
No,
That person don't have to.
they don't have to agree, no. Yeah. Yeah, so you have a really good point. If someone is, maybe they have like a health issue and they're displaying some behaviors like this, that's on this paper, then again, your supervisor is gonna have a conversation with you. Hey, Ebony, what's going on? I see that you're slurring your words, this, that, you're falling everywhere, you smell like marijuana, you know, what's going on? Okay, like physical symptoms, what's happening? Hey, supervisor, I have, an issue, and this is what's going on with me.
Sometimes they not able to, their mom.
Yeah. So, you know, that's why you have to have a conversation with the employee to see what's going on. But usually your supervisor sees you and they've interacted with you and they know how you behave. They know how you act.
Thank you.
So they're going to say something to you and say like, Ebony, you don't usually act like this. I'm pretty concerned about you. What's going on, right? So it's when you're displaying behavior that's unusual, usually. Yes?
What if two people say yes, and then you go take the test?
We're gonna talk about that.
The supervisor get in trouble.
Yeah.
Get in trouble?
No.
They should.
So, alright, so let me get through this. Let me get through this. So, supervisor documents observed submitted to HR, supervisor or the department transports the employee to the wellness center so they can get tested. CDL drivers will be placed on paid leave while results are pending. So, so Mr. Guy will take me to the wellness center, okay? And if I test negative, right, I have a clear and negative, and then he'll get the results. I tested negative, then I get to go back to work, right? And then, I get to go back to work, and then the supervisor might have another conversation with you in HR, just to figure out what's going on. Ebony, you're displaying this kind of behavior, I don't know what's happening. You usually don't fall out on work time, and I'm seeing that you're displaying some behaviors, what's happening? So another conversation will be had to really figure out what's happening with you and your wellness, okay? If you take your test and it comes back as a non-negative, not a positive, but a non-negative, then that specimen will be divided in two, okay? The specimen will be divided in two. Your sample will be divided in two, right? At that time, the doctor will say it's a non-negative, or you might not even get a results back, period. You might not get results back yet, right? The supervisor will be notified to take you home. If it's a non-negative, and you'll be put on paid administrative leave, pending a verified result, okay? Are we good so far?
So what is the splitting of the specimens?
You just get, is it non-negative passive?
No. So
So is that
non-negative,
standard though? Like that's.
you get a non-negative, and here's why. So you either get a negative or a non-negative. So they're gonna take that sample, and it's going to be transported to what we call who we call the MRO, the medical review officer, okay? The medical review officer will receive that test, that sample, okay? It takes a while while for them to get it, so it takes about a couple of days, business days. They'll receive it, and they're gonna test that specimen or the sample. And then they're gonna call Ebony. They're gonna say, hey, Ebony, I saw there's some amphetamines in your system. Can you tell me what's going on? At that time, they're like, hey, do you have any prescription to justify why there's something in your system? Hey, doctor, actually I do. Can I go, how can I give you that information? So we talk to the MRO, we give them, they'll give you plenty of time to provide whatever you need. Usually they give about 10 days. So it'll be my responsibility as an employee to provide them with the information that they need, okay? Yes.
So you said you take the test, and once they start returning that.
So, can I'm
What
gonna
was the
say out
question?
loud your question, okay? Just to make sure that I'm clear and everyone's on the same page. So what if the employee decides to quit that same day? Well, does it refuse to take the test or quit? So what if the employee refuses to take the test and quits? Is it still gonna be marked as a refusal or positive on their driver's license? The answer is
Yes.
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 The answer is yes. Huh? The answer is still yes. Yes. The answer is it's refusal. The answer is yes. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the process I was telling you, right? So hey, I got a prescription. So the MRO goes and talks to the wellness center, and they put it in the one training. All right. So they go, Ebony, okay, we have the prescription, you're all set, and they're gonna send something back to HR, me, or the benefits team saying, Ebony tested negative. So I'll get a verified negative, okay? Once I have a verified negative, no further action is taken. Yes, Mr.
If I give a sample and it comes back non-negative, and you're gonna break it up in two pieces and send it somewhere else to be verified, why don't you get a new sample?
No. You cannot get a new sample.
Well, they can't get a new sample.
Well, it's split in half, and then they'll test that sample, okay?
Was that sample tainted at that point?
No.
Because you already have non-negative just means that your whatever you use to take that sample was tainted the first sample.
So, no, it's split in half, so they're gonna preserve the sample to test, and then you have another sample that's on ice, okay? So, what does that mean? You have the sample that's on ice. So, you as employees, you can contest it. So you can get a retest if you choose to. So we have to keep your sample, your other sample, for 180 days on ice. So if you say, hey, Ebony, I tested positive, and I really believe that you guys have it all wrong, the employee can retest that second sample. Not get a whole new sample, but we're gonna retest that sample. Remember, we split it in half, and you can select any lab of your choosing, any certified lab of your choosing, to get that sample retested. Okay? It's gonna be on your dime. However, if it does come back negative, then we will reimburse you. Yes.
If you send up your administrative leave, right?
Paid.
Pay leave, is that on the employee, you use it all the time, or that's gonna be on the city, on the administration?
It's gonna be on our time.
Because
So
on your
it's not
time,
gonna be,
not-
you're not gonna use your sick or vacation information, anything of that nature. Yes. Any questions regarding reasonable suspicion? If it turns out negative, you cannot say, okay, this and that, or whatever. It's not a ding on the supervisor's CDL, nothing of that nature, no.
Hmm.
Yes.
Alright.
Yes, okay. So that's why when the MRO calls you, they're gonna ask you, what have you eaten? They're gonna ask you if you have any lotion with stuff in the lotion. They're gonna ask you everything. They have a checklist of all the stuff that they're gonna ask you. So you really have to be very forthcoming with the MRO when they call you, okay? At that time, HR is out of it and we let the professionals handle it. So the professionals will handle it, they'll call you, whatever. Now our job is just to wait. We'll put you on leave, paid administrative leave, and we are waiting for the verified results, a verified positive or a verified negative. Okay? That's why it's a non-negative. Any questions regarding reasonable suspicion? Yes.
Supposedly that the doctor will clean you out or you probably
Prescription.
9 years ago.
Yes.
And you decide now you dealing with that same pain or injury and you take it. Okay, you under suspicion, but does it hinder you from the doctor from way back then?
If you can get a prescription from the doctor, that's why the MRO gives you some time to get that information. So if you can, call the doctor and see if you can, or Walgreens or whomever that got that prescription, because sometimes they do have stuff in the computer. You can just go to your doctor and say, hey, you prescribed me something, give me a copy. Give it to the MRO, should be fine. It has to be your prescription. It has to be your prescription. Not your wife's prescription, not your friend's prescription, not your whatever's prescription. It has to say your name on it. Not your wife's name or a spouse's name.
Certain prescriptions, aren't you supposed to go to file it, city, like if you go to a doctor and they give you something that's gonna affect the doctor, like, tell them
There's no policy that states that you have to disclose. We would like to know that if we believe that it's going to affect your performance. But that's more of like that's more of a nuanced question, okay? So I don't wanna go off of like hypotheticals. Has that happened before? Yes, it has. But again, if that situation happens, we treat each one a little bit differently depending on the situation. So I don't wanna go into depth and confuse everybody. Alright, so we're gonna move along. But great questions. Alright, post-accident testing for CDLs, okay? You'll be required to test after an accident if you are in a city vehicle or your own vehicle on city time, okay, you're clocked in. If there is, you'll be required to do a post-accident drug or alcohol test if there is a fatality, or if there's any bodily injury and someone immediately receives medical attention away from the scene of the accident, or a vehicle is towed due to disabling damages, okay? So when we talk about disabling damages, we're not talking about, maybe a flat tire and the car needs to be towed, or a bumper falling off or something of that nature. We're talking about a car not being able to be